Hey guys, welcome back to Ben & Brewing's channel. For those of you that haven't been here before, we do product reviews, tutorials, and we have a live chat feature on our website to help you through your Brew Day 911s. Check it out at benandbrewing.com. There should be a link in the lower left. Chat us anytime. We're happy to help. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than what we've normally done. You may be familiar with the iGulu F1, which is kind of an all-in-one brewing system. We've done some tutorials and got our hands on the original unit that started several years ago. Today's video, they've actually sent us a new model, and we're going to break down some of the differences between what's on the market and what's coming very soon. Check it out. All right, so first off, this video is not sponsored by iGulu. However, they were kind enough to send us their beta testing model of the new model of the iGulu that they're bringing to market. This is the iGulu S1. We've had it for a couple of weeks. We've been able to run some tests and things on it, and we kind of want to take a look at what the differences are between the S1 and the F1. Now, the Kickstarter for this new model should be launching any day if it's not already out there already, but let's take a deeper dive into this unit. Okay, so let's go over some of the physical differences between the existing F1 and the new S1 that is coming out very soon. The biggest thing you'll notice right away is that the touchscreen is different, or rather it is no longer a touchscreen. It's actually a monochrome OLED. Now this was done to kind of keep some of the costs down, and that's kind of the same with the indicator lights. Here, of course, being a touchscreen on the original, you can swipe up and down to choose your settings. This has a very similar menu, but it is simplified as far as the navigation goes. The indicator lights on the original F1, you had this status bar here that would change colors depending on what stage of fermentation or serving you were in. The new unit, from what we see, does not have that same indicator light. I know at first glance you see this is orange. This actually never changes. That's not a light. That's just a strip in there. I don't know if that'll come through on the final unit. I do kind of like the look of it on there, so maybe they won't remove it. As far as the touchscreen goes, these arrows that you see on the side, that is what changes the color to let you know what stage of fermentation or serving that you're in. They're actually very visible and very bright. As far as brewing functionality, as far as the touchscreen goes, and I'll talk about the software here in a minute, again, the menus are very, very simple. This is very intuitive and easy to navigate and really gives you the same functionality. So other than it not being necessarily as sleek, I do kind of like the sharp edge look and the space gray. It actually looks, I think, kind of nice. Physically, there's a big difference between the two units. The original F1 is about 33 pounds because of all the hardware that's in there, the compressor, the CO2 distribution system, all of that. The S1 has a different cooling system and actually only weighs about 20 pounds, so it is much lighter. And it was evident when I tried to lift it out of the box when I got it, because I'm used to hauling this guy around, and it's quite hefty and cumbersome. This one, I almost threw it over my head when I lifted it because I was expecting that same heft, and that was not the case. As I mentioned, the cooling system in this is different, and that is one of the main reasons why it is so much lighter. Now, it doesn't use a traditional compressor such as the F1 does. It actually uses a solid-state electrical semiconductor. I hope I'm saying that right. Basically using electricity to cool down the beer. There's a couple benefits with that. One, it's very quiet because there's no really moving parts. There is a fan that runs, and it runs about the same decibels as the original, but you don't hear that compressor kick on. I've had issues where, depending on where I place the iGulu, if I'm putting it on, say, a wood table and it reverberates just right, you can really hear when that compressor kicks on. This S1, not really an issue. You really don't hear it that loud. It doesn't really vibrate like the original. The other difference too, on the original, the tap handle is definitely like a solid piece of machined metal. On the S1, it is much, much lighter, although it does still look and function exactly the same. So I don't think that's really a big loss. The other thing with the S1 is the kit that you get includes kind of the usual accoutrements. So you have the Triton keg, all the attachments that go inside of it. It does not, however, come with the 5-liter keg adapter, which really isn't a deal breaker because I don't know a ton of people that really serve from those kegs, and a lot of those are really designed to be served without the unit. Very handy to have, and we've tested it and used it, and it's extremely convenient, but not the biggest deal in the world. The other big change with the S1 is that there is no built-in CO2 distribution system. That will be a separate kind of an add-on that you can do. So if you're not doing any carbonated beverages, or if you're just doing like kombucha or still cider or anything like that, you don't need CO2. And so that eliminates a lot of the complication from the unit and a lot of the weight as well. Now, if down the road you decide you do want to have that as an option, they should have that available. There's no details on it yet. They're still working out kind of how it's going to work and how that's going to look, but that will be an upgrade that you can add to the S1 in the future. And speaking of the not having the CO2 distribution, it does have a built-in air pump similar to the F1. So you are able to serve those non-carbonated beverages out of your Triton keg. So it does function the same way from that standpoint. Now, you can definitely brew beer on this, and it will carbonate on its own naturally. So don't despair. You can certainly do carbonated fermented beverages on the S1, but the way to serve it, you can use normal keg pressure, and that will push it out. Near the end of the keg, it might get kind of slow, and I don't know if it will stop serving necessarily, but if it does, right at the end, you can kick on that air pump and serve the rest of it. It won't stale the beer because you're gonna be out of the beer soon anyway. But if you do use the air pump, as soon as you kick it on and you start to push out your carbonated beverages, you've really got, especially for beer, 24 hours before it does start to oxidize. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about the software difference. The new S1 comes with the new Firm Control 2.0 versus the F1, which has the 1.0. Now, my understanding is that gives you more control in defining things like temperature and pressure. So it sounds to me like you might be able to adjust the pressure of the fermentation so it doesn't get to that default 30-35 psi, and that's where you're stuck. It may also give the ability to track the fermentation progress and see how it's going. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I don't have all the details on it. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to use that functionality because this is the beta testing unit. They're still working on the software. And for those of you iGulu users out there, if you haven't used the app yet, the iGulu app, definitely take a look at that. Currently, it's only available for iOS devices. The new update of the app hasn't gone through Google's approval process yet, or they're still in the works of doing that. But they've added a lot of functionality. They have the ability to really dial in your fermentation profiles and things. So they've really made some massive improvements, and it works great with the F1. Unfortunately, I couldn't use the app with the S1 because it is the beta testing unit. I wasn't able to get it connected to any sort of Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to be able to use it with the app because, again, we're just testing functionality. The software is coming. So let's talk about what it really all means. First off, the price point. So iGulu is saying that when this comes to market, the S1 will be available for about $4.99. If you support their Kickstarter or their Indiegogo, I believe you can kickstart it for like $2.99, so you can get your unit once they come to market. One of the things that I noticed with the iGulu S1 was the cooling ability. And we talked about that a little bit earlier in the video when I said this has a traditional compressor. This is more electric solid state cooling technology magic. Anyways, in our testing, it was way quieter than the original iGulu F1, but it does have diminished cooling capacity. We ran a test in a relatively warm ambient environment. It was 80 degrees in our testing environment. We put 80-degree water in each of the units, and we ran it to see how long it would take it to get down to 45 degrees, or kind of a serving temperature if you're doing beer. The F1 was able to bring it to temperature in about 2.5 hours, which was not surprising at all. Compressor ran quite a bit, and it dropped the temperatures very quickly. The S1 actually took about 20 hours to cool down to 45 degrees, which on first look, you think, wow, that is some greatly diminished power. Why would I ever want to do that? Well, here's something to keep in mind. Generally, when you're crash cooling things, you really, depending on the beer style, you don't necessarily want to drop it as fast as possible because you can stress out your yeast. So kind of by the nature of it, if it's taking 24 hours to get to serving temperature, that's a very nice gradual temperature drop to let your yeast drop out of suspension. So I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing. Now, if you're looking to crash cool some carbonated water, or the fact that it is quieter and the fact that it's lighter and there's less moving parts, it may end up being more reliable in the long run. So you really kind of look at your particular use case and see if it makes sense. Do you need the one that cools much faster, or can you deal with something that's a little bit slower to cool, but there's other side benefits that come with that? And as I mentioned before, with that price point, it does not come with CO2, and again, depends on your use case. You will be able to adapt that later on in the product life cycle. I'm not sure when that's coming out, don't have details on it yet, but you're not stuck with those CO2 if you do decide to go with the S1. You can add that at a later time. And I do have to say, with the cooling capacity of both units, they're extremely accurate. They kept fermentation temperatures within about a degree over under. Very, very solid. The S1 was no different. It had no trouble keeping that 45-degree cool water once we hit that in that 80-degree environment. It didn't seem to be working that hard to do it. So I was very impressed with how it was able to do that. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our first look at the iGulu S1. Please leave a comment below on what your thoughts are about the new features and this new product that's coming to market. Let us know the good and the bad. I really want to hear everyone's opinions on what they think of this new model. Catch you later, my friends.